focused on.
Well, hello. Welcome to Drawing with Fire. I'm Valarie, your neighborhood pyrography artist. And today, I'm joined with hubby.
Hubcap.
I almost forgot that. And I am starting the longer fur. Now, where we left off last week was on the nose. And let me pop it up. So right here on the left is where we left off, and I was able to do some work on it, and she's starting to get form and wrinkles. But I gotta tell you, there's times I get lost in this piece, so I'm going to show a very easy, cheap, as in completely free way to keep focus. Now what I've done is I've taken a piece of cardstock, cut it in half, and then I cut out a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. And the purpose of this is when I cover where I want, I don't see everything around it. But then I also have to take the other piece and line it up. Oh, actually, I have a better picture that I pulled. There we go. And then I need to find the same place on my photo, which is actually zoomed in, so that's not going to work. That'll just show me detail. So I'll go to the same spot, line it up, and this is all I'm looking for. And I can turn it in different directions, because this one I'm not taping to my reference, because I don't want to pull my reference apart. But this one, so this one's loose. I'm just trying to find the right spot. Just down a little bit. Right about there. And then I'll clamp it to my easel, which I actually move stuff. Probably shouldn't have done that. So now, all I'm looking at as I'm burning, I've got my hand here. I'm just looking at this area. I'm not looking at everything else, but because I put tape around the edges, that way when I use tape to adhere, I'm not pulling and weakening the cardstock. If you don't have cardstock, and this is really thin cardstock, you could use printer paper, or what they call in the UK cartridge paper. You could take a old Christmas card that say you didn't want to keep. You could cut it in half, measure out. This square can be any size that you want it. If you want to be able to work in a smaller area, of course, it would be a smaller square. I don't know that I would go any bigger than 3 or 3.5 just to stay focused. And by taping just one end, you can flip it and see how you're doing. In fact, I did this whole side of her face last night using this technique because I wanted to make sure it would work and feel comfortable. And it does. So I'm happy with that, because everybody gets lost. You make your pattern, and the next day you go to use it, and
not me,
because you don't use it.
I'm a scout.
Oh gosh, unless you're in the air, you get lost easy. Kidding? You get lost in an empty parking lot.
Says you.
Hey Teresa, Philip, hey Troy, Greg,
Troy's here.
Burl. Yeah, he said hi all.
Oh.
So this way, I'm just focusing on this area because you guys watch me bounce around all the time. And I can still bounce around. I just have to, pick this up and move it to the area I want. And then I can focus on getting it to at least block it in and be able to erase. And then I can go back and darken up the areas that I want to darken up. And unfortunately on wood, the tape is going to get unsticky. So I just fold it over and grab a new piece. And again, I can use it in any direction. In fact, I might use it this way so I'm not looking at the eyes, because I really want to stay focused. So this is where all the tape on the different sides comes into place, because I can just tape it around. And I think, looking at my stuff, I'm about here. And because it's cardstock, I should have pulled the tape before I did this. Because it's cardstock, one, I don't have to worry about hitting it with the burner because we can burn paper. So I don't have to worry about that. The tape is further away, so I don't have to worry about the adhesive of the tape being nearby. Because I thought about laminating it, but then I have the plastic to worry about. So I won't be laminating it. Now I picked this area, and it's on her right side here, at her ear and at Xena's. She got a big wrinkle right here that's dark. So I picked this area so that we can burn white. Because looking at the reference, in fact, I can make it a little bigger, and I'm going to shift over a little bit. I'll make the reference a little bigger. Even though she looks white, it helps if I hit the right photo. Work with me. It's not working with me. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull her partly off screen so that we can focus like this. So that's no different, really, than me covering. Alright, so I'm on 3, and I've got my 18S, actually, because it's easier to get into the small areas. And with this, I'm just actually using the edge and tapping in to get the fur texture, fur direction, and then I can go back and, because there's not going to be any lines, it's going to be the fur. And see, I can get close to the edge if I burn it, not a big deal. Let's see here, this is a little smoother, but I want to, so I'm going to use more of the tip and bottom and draw out. The one thing with this, though, is going to be hard to see. This, I would say, use mainly for blocking in. That way you can keep track of where you're at. Let's zoom over here and get the camera out of my face. And then erase the pencil, and then you can darken it as you go. This will keep you a little more focused. Okay if it's a little rough. And actually, what I forgot to do is I tend to use my eraser and lighten up the graphite. I just want enough where I can see. That way if I burn over some of it, it'll be lighter and easier to remove with the denatured alcohol. Alrighty. And I probably still won't stay in one spot, but once this is blocked in, I'll probably move around because that's what I do. Let's see here. The ear comes up here. There we go. But the hair in the dark actually goes up. So I'm just tapping it in. Not. In fact, since I do have some burn here, I can erase it more. And so now I know this is the edge of her ear. And I can just go.
So there's a couple things that this is like. We use a similar thing in painting for color matching. Like if you're having trouble figuring out like what color hue or particular shade something is, you can use a little cutout, and that isolates the color so you can see what you're looking at better, so you don't get distracted by the surrounding colors. And
I had
also,
someone said that over there.
It's not unlike gridding.
It is in a way. In fact, when you print out your photo, if you wanted to, you could say, okay, my square is 2.5 by 2.5. You could actually draw out lines every 2.5 by 2.5, and that way you just move it around. And so you're gridding without getting lost. And gridding is not cheating.
Ted, you're not late.
No.
A wizard is never late.
We just finished the Harry Potter series, so don't mind him.
Well, that was a Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh,
But I
that's
could
true.
tell
Yes,
Ted,
I'm sorry. Yes,
you're
right.
a wizard, Ted.
Okay, Hagrid. Just finish the... So see...
Oh, you keep going, Hermione.
When I lift, you'll only see where I've stopped. So this would be the line if you were gridding. And you could draw a light line for the gridding to help you keep everything lined up.
That's what I would do, because I would be afraid of, like, accidentally isolating the wrong place and then getting my details mixed up.
Well, but the purpose of doing this is for that very reason.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying I would be paranoid about it.
No reason to be paranoid. It's fixable.
You know, you could do this in clear material, and that way that you can see your reference.
Completely throws off everything I just told them.
Oh.
Aww. This is so it's easier to focus.
Gotcha.
Because I'm not looking at all this other detail. I'm not worried about getting the values right this second, because I'm going to come back and darken it all up. And I know this. Now the 3 pens I've been using for the fur is my 18S Spear Shader, my 17SR, which is the custom modified fur tip that I had, that Pat sells now, that I had made, and my 18M. Those are the 3 I've been using for the fur. And I've just been going back and forth between them. In fact, I'm probably going to switch over to the 17 here in a second.
You have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hurley Girl.
Hello, Hurley Girl.
What kind of eraser do you use?
My favorite eraser. My favoriteest. Where is the box? You've got a box over there in that purple, in the purple box on the counter by the green bottle. Isn't this always fun when we do this?
Oh, purple.
You'll see pencil lead in a box. I need that box because I can't.
Wait, do you need the whole box?
I just need the box.
Oh, well, I'm going to give you the box and the lead.
Okay, I'm using my box to hold my lead. It's a Vanish 4-in-1.
Oh, yeah, Greg said that too.
Yep, and I have it listed over on my Amazon.
It's a pretty fancy pencil lead holder thing.
Well, I didn't want to lose the box, and I needed to hold the pencil lead, so I did that. Alright, I'm on 3, with my 17 SR, and the difference between the 17 and the 17 SR is the curve. This one does really good straight lines, and if you're doing not curvy fur, but just kind of flowing curves like this, it works well. But I had this one modified in order to, so they're both the V, but I had it modified so that it rolled better between my fingers. And what I mean by rolled is as I'm doing fur, I roll however way I need to go. That way I'm crisscrossing and changing fur direction, so that it's not like straight lines, it's curved and overlapping. Get back. Let's see here. Let me get some of this in.
Looks like you have to be careful not to burn up your paper.
I'm not worried about the paper. I can always make a new one. And I had thought about putting other squares in it for different sizes, but then that kind of, again, defeats the purpose of blocking so you're not seeing everything. And see, with this one I can go back and forth and kind of get scriggly lines.
So real quick, while you're doing that, I know you've greeted a couple people, but Teresa, Philip, Barb B.
Hey, Barb.
Of course, Troy. Greg. Beryl. Amy.
Hey, Amy.
And did I say Ted? Ted.
Yes.
Yeah, Ted. Harley Girl. And Sheila are here.
Hey, Sheila.
Did I say Greg?
You said Greg.
Okay.
And I said Greg. We both said Greg. All right. So I can kind of use this to kind of sketch in the fur direction. Let's see here, because this goes up. I can also use, because it's a V, so I can use it to get finer lines, or I can use it on the side and get thicker lines. So that's part of rolling it as well as we go, or as I go.
That makes sense.
Whereas with the 17, it was a little harder to do this. And this is just how I've always burned with this kind of pen, is being able to roll it. So, let's see here.
It looks like it would lend itself to smoother curves because
it does.
It is a curve as opposed to the harsher angle of the other one. Like, you could probably do the same thing, but you probably have to pay more attention to the other one because the transition and the edges is it's not such a smooth transition.
For longer fur, yeah, it works just fine. But for the shorter fur, like what I'm doing here, yeah, it doesn't work as well. And even though this is long fur, it's a smaller area, so it's still smaller strokes than. Let's see here. So I'm going to switch over real quick to here. And see, I tell you groups of fur, clumps of fur, and I'm still wanting that, but I'm just using this for fur direction, and I can go back and thicken it up. So fur direction.
Well, I want to know if you caught it right. 17 SR.
Yep.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not listed on the website yet because Pat's been so busy and he's getting ready to redo the website. So if you want to order it, you can put it down in the notes at the bottom of the order form, or you can call him.
So it's like a secret. Not really. You just told everybody, but it's sort of a secret.
Let's see here.
It's like if you go to like a fast food place and you order something that's not on the menu.
Yeah, kind of, I guess.
Like,
yes,
what would
the
you
secret
like?
menu.
Double hamburger? Triple hamburger? I'd like a quadruple neuroblastoma, please.
Oh, gosh. Oh, I couldn't eat more than 3 bites of that.
With extra sodium.
Doesn't even sound good.
I have a checkup tomorrow. On my mind.
Okay. Alright, so here's a little darker at the ear. And I went ahead and switched over because I'm going to group the fur better. Try to follow the direction. Now, you don't see me turning my reference photo, but if you're new to burning, or just it feels better to you, it works better for you, definitely turn your reference to match your board direction. With me, I've gotten so used to flipping the board all the time that my brain. I also read upside down and backwards. But not everybody does. And
still game. ISA.
You're just jealous.
Philip says he's going to order it right after class. So I guess this is class, huh?
Yes, he calls it class.
Uh-huh.
And last week he was playing hooky. I teased him about that. Philip, I hope your leg's feeling better. Unfortunately,
What was wrong with Philip's leg?
Philip cut. Remember I showed you the picture? He cut a big old gash into his thigh and had to get a bunch of stitches.
Oh, wow.
That was about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
I tore my hamstring last week.
Yes, you did.
I'm still here slaving away moderating.
Because you can sit on your butt to do it.
In
But it wasn't always
slaving, I tell you.
You are not slaving. I'm the one doing the work. I'm trying to think and talk and burn at the same time. You can just sit there and chew gum.
Yep.
And do that.
I'm not. I'm drinking coffee.
Let's see here. Actually,
Yes, Greg says his pen is not secret anymore. I guess Harley Girl's going to order that pen too.
yeah, I really like the pen, and it was, Pat had to send me a couple to test out to get the way I wanted it. So I wanted him to label it a DWF, 17 DWF, but he had to go and be stubborn. Because it is my design, my request. See, right now it looks ugly, and I'm not looking at the whole context of the piece, and that can kind of throw you off a little bit, and that's where patience really comes in. But if you need to move it, then by all means move it. Like I said, I can flip it.
When I get thrown off, it sounds like this. Oh, ah, ah!
We don't have any spider stories, and he gives 8, so I guess his sugar level is up.
For now, wait till it drops.
Oh, true, you'll fall asleep.
Yep.
Let's see here, I'm trying. This is the top part of the ear. This is the neck, her neck mane behind the ear. And so I'm trying to make sure that I get it separated, and fortunately...
You know, she's shedding so much right now. She came out in the yard this morning when I was cleaning up, and she has like a mohawk of long fur, because she lays on her sides, so the side fur rubs off where she lays, so the top stuff remains. So she's a big dog, so she's got like a foot wide strip of long hair running all the way from her head down her back. And I was like, what are you doing? He pulled out a handful of hair.
I know.
Showed it to her, and she's like, what?
I'm not doing it. Not on purpose. Alright. I'm just moving down a little bit because I want to be able to darken this part of the ear and not get lost. So I'll just move it. And what I look for are landscapes. So, like, for this, in order to line it up with my photo, I'm also using the side of her face. What I mean by that is right here, her face and ear connect. So that's what is right here. And that way I can find it in my photo as well. So that's...
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Pete is here.
Hey, Pete.
And Ted.
Let's see here, Derek.
That is a great movie. I loved that movie so much when it came out.
What movie?
It's called They Live.
They Live.
It has Roddy Piper in it.
Oh, we watched it.
Yeah.
We watched it.
It's like the favorite. That's my favorite line. I think it's like everybody's favorite line from the movie, though. So, because he walks in and he's like, "I've come here to do 2 things: to chew bubblegum and to kick ass." And I'm all out of bubblegum.
And then I guess it's ass.
Troy said for Xena, he says you should color the mohawk purple and send him a pic.
Oh gosh. You know, I think she'd get depressed if we did that to her.
What? Color her? She probably wouldn't know it. She'd probably be like, what are you doing?
Well, because she gets depressed when she starts losing her hair. Right now on the ear, I'm not worried about the hair pattern. I'm just trying to block it in. And the reason is I found with this board, it's actually not so much for the high highlights. I'm not going to do it for the high highlights. But just to make sure it looks white, I can scrape out. And it gives me that hair texture. So right now I'm just trying to block it in, because this is where it folds. So this is the top of her ear. It folds down, and then she's got the other part that comes down. And see, I actually had to sand on the other side of the ear because I messed up. And I'll show you here in a second. So compared to last week, when I got lost in my pattern, and for some reason I was thinking this part was the blanket, but it was actually the curl of her ear. So I had to sand this back and relay it out.
Harley Girl wants to know if you use a 17SR for people with long hair.
Sure. Yeah. The three main pens that I use for hair, like main blocking in, are my 18 S&M and the 17 SR. Those are the three main ones that I use for blocking in. And if I need to go through and maybe detail and area out more, then I might look at using one of my ball tips or the 9M writer. But to lay down, get everything going where it needs to be, it's mainly those three pins that I use. Alright. Now this is definitely going to have to go darker.
Early girl says she would be depressed too if she was losing her hair.
Yeah, she get like every time she has a big blowout, she seems to get a little depressed and don't look at me type. And I think maybe that's why she's been so whiny and wanting you to put her to bed. She's a 165-pound dog and she wants Dad to put her to bed every night. And if she doesn't get put to bed, she will stand at the hall door and whine and whine and knock the gate down and whine some more. And she just will not. But it does seem to happen more when she's blowing out her coat.
Yeah, she didn't really do it last night.
Because you put her to bed.
Oh, yeah.
See, I made the mistake the other night of talking to her and petting her before I went to bed. As soon as I did that, it woke her up, and it was, I want to come be with you. I even opened the spare room for her to lay down on the bed, but that was not good enough.
Pete wants to know if you're demonstrating pyrography for people with square eyes. Yes.
Yes, this is for square eyes.
Oh,
They need to learn too. Now, this is so you focus, because I also have one of these on my picture, so you can focus on just this area without any of the other information. You know, it makes it easier to keep focused and keep things more accurate. I don't know how many people are like me, but there's been times where I've been burning along and it's looking good and I'm okay with it, and then I stop and I really look and I'm like, oh man, that's not where the elbow goes. And I have to sand back and start over again. This way I can keep track of what is just in this square.
Ted says that he didn't tell you, but at his county fair, they didn't know they should enter his burnings into fine art or woodworking, so he put one in each category, and he won Best in Show in woodworking.
Awesome! That's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I tend to enter into fine art, but I definitely think it's whatever you feel comfortable with.
Well, you won.
I won
Best in Show.
Last time I entered, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't win Best in Show. I won People's Choice.
Yeah. Well, they don't really have.
They didn't have a Best in Show last time.
People's Choice is basically it.
Yeah.
And I won People's Choice a couple years before that.
Yeah, you beat me out. Only because you had a giant one piece and I had multiple little pieces that have multiple votes. Yeah.
That's actually, that is a, like,
that is a true statement.
If I do another Night Visions, I'm only entering one piece.
Yeah.
Because I think I potentially could have gotten Best in Show, or People's Choice, but my vote for my pieces got split in between my two pieces, and
yeah.
Somebody else ended up winning. So.
Yeah. That is the hazards of entering more than one.
Mm-hmm. But it was good feedback, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so cool, Pete. I'm so happy to hear that.
Wait, Pete or Ted?
Oh, sorry. So glad to hear that, Pete. That you score, Ted. I'm so sorry, Ted. Oops, I screwed that one up. Oops. I am really proud of you, though, Ted. It feels good when you spend all that time and then you walk in and you see a ribbon hanging next to it.
Yeah.
And you feel like somebody appreciated the time you spent.
Yeah. Validation.
Yep. You feel like you did something right. Let's see here.
Or in the case of you being in the woodworker show, when you come in and there's like 10 ribbons on your stuff, you're like, I guess I did many things right.
Let's see. See, I had a hard time with this picture. What I'm trying to figure out, actually, is if this... I can't pull it up. This is the edge of her ear.
Troy says he's noticed you always have an excuse.
An excuse for what? That is her ear, isn't it? What do I have an excuse for?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out in 30 seconds.
Guess so, actually. I'm too far down right now. This is where I'm at. Alrighty. Because this is blown up. I have to reorient myself. Let's see here. Your finger is a good tool to follow along your pattern. Let's see, that comes down. That comes down. Very easy to get lost. Especially if you haven't worked with drawing out your pattern in a while. Let's see here.
Harley Girl says the problem is that she has is that everybody loves the work but doesn't want to pay anything for it.
Yep, that is hard.
The eternal artist's problem.
Yep.
Yep. Even in the old days, even Da Vinci had that problem. Da Vinci was like, "I'll make it as a painting," and then the Pope was like, "Oh, this is a wonderful. Maybe it could be a little cheaper. Maybe I could trade you some things.
Yeah.
How about some communal wafers? That'd be good." And then Da Vinci was like, "You insulted my face."
Yeah, I can't see him taking communal wafers for...
But I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying.
It's an ongoing problem in the art world.
It is.
And I watched a video the other day about artists who sell for ridiculous amounts of money. That's a whole different thing. That's a societal, socio-economical issue. There's a certain demographic that buys crazy expensive art, and
yeah, I want to find them as a client though.
there's a certain community that does that, and like the hope is that you'd be able to get into that community, but unfortunately it's also driven by critics who are in that. And I'm not saying like it's good or bad, it's just like, if that's the world that you want to run with, then
have thick skin.
And you may or may not be making art that you love, or because you love it, it may be about the negotiating and the positioning of your work. But for the rest of us, is how to get, because people don't have a lot of money right now in general.
It's going to get worse too.
And so art, like I have the stylist who does my hair. Yeah, I said stylist. Anyway, she likes one of my pieces and wants to get one, but she can't afford one right now. So she was talking to me last time I got a haircut, and she's like, "Yeah, I can't afford it, but I'm saving because apparently that she's getting married and they want to save up for the piece, for the not the original, of course.
Oh,
for the print. Oh God, no.
Oh,
yeah, that would be great if somebody would buy the original, but Yeah. So it's a weird place that art is in, you know.
It is a luxury, not a necessity. And
I've been to school, Philip. That's why I use big words. I don't necessarily know what they all mean. I just throw them out there.
Let's see here.
Yes, Dad. That's what Michelangelo was told. Paint the ceiling, and it's a chapel. I can pay you, but it'll be good exposure. He couldn't type in bad Italian accent. What do you mean bad?
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting too far off.
Melissa Daigle says, just
Hi,
talking.
Melissa.
What would you charge for a piece like Xena? $5 million.
Let me quickly do the math. A piece like Xena. Xena's a 9 by 14, I think. Yeah, I think it's a 9 by 14. Sorry, gotta get the calculator. Xena would be, if I sold her, $650.
That's $6.50.
No, $650.
Oh. And here's the thing about that too, because you have to get your time out, and I think what a lot of people who aren't artists don't realize is how much time is put into the work. And you know, there's a lot of different factors, but like if you went to a mechanic, right, and you're like, hey, I need my transmission replaced, and they're like, well, that'll be $1,500.
You don't think of it.
You're like, well, dang, that's expensive, but you know, that's the price, and I'm going to pay it. But it was because the mechanics are getting paid for their time and labor, and you know, wear on tools and all that stuff that gets factored in, and you know, that's the price. And generally, we use a formula per square inch, and it works out pretty well as far as the time, because like if you
I actually lose money on a big piece,
because if you multiplied it by, like, you know, per hour, like per dollars per hour, if you did that, it would actually be a lot more, because she does spend a lot of time on the work. So
I had to find a way that I felt comfortable charging.
Yeah.
Because I work slow doesn't mean that that's fair to the client.
Yeah.
I had to find a way. Let's see here, we don't have highlighted for here.
That's actually very true, Troy. Troy says people with big money don't know good art, so they listen to the experts, air quotes, to tell them what is good art. We have to get them to acknowledge the work, and that's very true. Like, and
I'm working on that.
I once worked with an art dealer, and she used to brag about how she could make an artist, and like she took this one unknown up in Wyoming and marketed him and got his pieces selling for in the tens of thousands per piece. And this kid was like 15 or 16 at the time, and she was bragging about that, you know, like, oh, you know, it's all marketing. It's all.
But that is true. It is all marketing.
It is true, you know. And there was a couple years back that somebody took a picture of a potato, and that picture of potato is over $1 million. It's just a photo, but it's marketing, you know. And there was a famous, I'm not gonna say incident, but it was somewhat of an experiment. But it was a guy thumbing his nose at the art world. It was the red dot that was put up in New York City, and it was valued, you know, highly, and you know, by the critics there, and it was, you know, revolutionary, and the guy's intent was, you know, to show just how ridiculous the art world was. In fact, Marcel Duchamp, the upside down urinal that's pretty famous,
Until you, I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah,
so
it's called urinal. Well, it's called what is it? I forget. It says something in French, but anyway, and it's got armut on the side, and basically it was just a found urinal, and he took it and he mounted it upside down, and he did it because at the time, like in the 1900s in Paris, this was already beginning to be a thing where people were becoming so
snooty.
Yeah, I was looking for a better word, but snooty is good about art, and pretentious. They're being really pretentious. The critics were being pretentious, and his idea was to enter this because it was a juried show. He entered it into this juried show, not expecting to get it accepted, just to thumb his nose at the judges, because he knew that they'd have to look at this urinal, and it's his way of like speaking directly to them and calling them out. But they missed the point entirely
And loved it.
And now that urinal is a multi-million-dollar piece of art, and it's on display in a museum. So you never know, I would say that representational artwork is making a comeback, so that's good for the kind of work that you and I do, and many of our toasties. Actually, I think all of our toasties. I don't know. I think that if you're watching this channel, you're probably not into abstract burns.
Which if you are, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. But it is making a comeback, and so. But what is true, no matter where you're at, it is about marketing, and then how you market yourself will affect how successful you are. And whether or not that you charge ridiculous prices for your art or, not. I would say, though, to be careful, because, and I've said this before, that as an artist, sometimes it's very tempting, it's very attractive to make a sale, because you see the client there, and they either say, or it's implied that, like, well, I have like $50 in my pocket, and I'd be willing to pay $50 for it. So it's really tempting to sell that because, artists got to eat, and, hey, $50, that's something, right? But the problem is that when you do that, if it's worth $50 to you and then you're okay with it, okay, that's fine. But if you make a habit of that, it becomes really difficult to crawl out of that, because let's say that down the road, 2 years down the road, your work has improved, you're spending a lot more time in individual pieces, you're still going to have your following that expects you to charge low prices for it, and it can become an issue. So,
well, not only that, when you set a price, you're telling that person, this is what this piece means to me. So when you turn around and lower the price because you just feel like you want to make the sale, and sometimes it's you got to buy food, and understandable. What you're telling that person is you don't think very highly of yourself and what you're creating, and then they devalue your art because you have devalued your art.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a good rule of thumb. Like, no matter what, charge the price for the work that makes you okay with parting with it. Now, my work doesn't generally take as much time as Valerie's, because
never takes its time.
Although it probably should. I should spend more time. But
I agree.
But when I get done with a piece that I really love, like, it's hard for me to let it go because I've invested, time and effort into it. So the price that I have on the work is basically it's what I'm willing to do. It's what it is worth to me to let it go from my life. So.
And see, I don't see it that way. For the most part, any piece I make, when I'm done, it's like the kids leaving the nest. Okay, go away. I go next. I'm not deeply attached to most. Now, Xena, I probably wouldn't sell because she's our dog, and I'm doing this for a different reason. But in general, unless it's something personal, I want them gone. I'm running out of room. On top of that, I'm creating because I want them to go somewhere else. I want them to say something to somebody else. Now it may take a while to sell, but in my head that just means it's waiting for the right person who will truly appreciate it and not just see it as an investment.
Yeah. And Harley Girl's right. She says, don't go too low because then the perception is that the art isn't very good.
Yeah.
You know, and there's something else too. It's like you don't want to go too low on your art either because like, I know artists here locally that sell their work for $25-$50, you know, for a decent sized painting. And so that, you know, let's say it gets sold because that person likes it. They're like, oh, hey, you know, I got $50 or whatever, I'll buy it. And then they don't like it. They don't like it after a while. And it's a lot easier for them to put it in an attic or garage sale if they paid $50 for it. And then if they paid more for it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you take care of the things that are expensive in your life, and you do want your art to be taken care of and treasured. And I'm not saying have a dollar amount, you know, is going to ensure that, but it's going to help.
Then because if it's cheap, then they don't feel like they're throwing their money away.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, so when they're like, I don't want this painting in this room anymore. Instead of putting it in the attic, they maybe, well, you know, I paid good money for this. Maybe I should frame it. You know, maybe I should
find a new home or something.
Find another place for it, or maybe I can see what the artist is doing now, and maybe, you know, look at reselling it. But that way you don't end up with your work, you know, in a garage sale getting picked up by somebody else.
Oh, like that one artist who goes and picks up,
dips it in paint and then signs it and
claims it as his.
Yeah, and gets paid a lot of money for it.
Lots of money.
That's a whole nother thing.
Ooh, don't get me started on that one.
No.
That one upsets me.
So Ted says that he went on an art class trip and they were supposed to critique 4 of the sculptures in this modern art exhibit, and they found this really cool one, but they couldn't find a label for it. And anyway, it turned out to be a humidity meter that was put into the corner to regulate room.
Oh, that's good.
You know,
that's good.
There was a in the 70s
that's good.
When modern art was really starting to come around. There's this is something I learned in art history class. One of the exhibits by one of the artists had, you know, a lot of these very ergonomic, kind of like organic designs, and they had to put labels on it on 2 of the works to keep people from sitting on them because they thought that they were benches to look at the other work, not art. So, you know,
it happens. Let's see here, I'm off.
Sometimes you see art like that and you're like, well, okay, I get it. You know, that's something. Like, I appreciate work that takes time and effort to make, you know, but that's always going to be a point of dissent among artists, is what is art and what isn't art. Because if somebody checks a engine block into a room and puts a spotlight on it, yeah, you could technically call that art, but there's some people in the art community that be like, oh my god, that's avant-garde, that's so daring, you know. And there's other people that you'd be like, okay, well, that's an engine block, what's it doing there? And it's a matter of perspective. And again, going back to what Troy said and what we were talking about, it's what the critics latch onto. Because if a right critic goes in and sees that engine block and is like, oh my god, that's amazing, I think that's a daring statement about, you know, about the industrialization of our society and how we spend too much time on it, you know. And
you know what? I just want to smack them then, because all they're doing is making up BS.
Chat, I thought she was going to smack me for a second.
No. No, based on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When they have to make things up to justify it.
Well, that's the other thing too, and you see that in art school too. You'll have somebody who comes in and because the assignment was like, okay, like I'm just gonna say, you know, paint a dog, right? And so somebody comes in with a pipe cleaner dog, you know, and it's obvious that this person has like been partying the whole time, but they're like, you know, I didn't want to be confined by the constraints of canvas, so I chose other materials, and this is my artistic interpretation of this assignment as it relates to society and my own belief system. And everybody in the room knows that it's BS. Like, and sometimes if the professor is good, they'll call him on it. I saw one student, like, they left, like, enraged and crying, but they totally were, it was because they got caught, basically. But that's the thing. It's like, how many artists are out there in the real world doing that, you know? And because they have a good line for their work, you know, it's being critically acclaimed. So I think to be an honest artist, like, you need to be honest to yourself and to the work.
Yeah.
You know, not just try and manipulate the critics. And Troy says, I wondered if you could charge $10,000, you could create your own high-end market. Some think if it's expensive, it must be good.
That's true, too.
You know, and there's some artists that do that. And I think that, like, in the case of my art, there's some of my art is in the thousands. But it's really large art, and it's art that I spent a long time on, and that's what it's worth to me. But I think that what happens in that time, if you chart, because I had a friend who actually in Alaska is an artist in Alaska and does really beautiful large oil paintings, and they are around the area of $5,000 to $10,000 for his large pieces. I think they're probably all around $10,000 to $15,000 right now, and that's what he priced, and he didn't move a lot of paintings. And now he's gotten more clients, and he's actually selling them. But the quality is there to support it. So I think,
and that has to be there.
And when you charge a price like that, like, you are literally selling yourself. Like, everything that you've got has got to be rock solid. You have to be able to present yourself. You've got to be able to talk about the work cohesively, and it has to be good work, you know, and it has to make sense. So that when the viewer sees it, like, they see it for what it is, and they can interpret it, and they understand what you're doing. And I think that's a solid business plan, you know. And it may take a long time. It may take decades for you to get that clientele that you want. But eventually, you'll probably get it if you remain consistent to your work, you know. And that's true, Troy. You know, you can create that, you know. But there are plenty of artists. Like, if you look on eBay, I think I was watching a thing online. There's artists who have taken that. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You okay?
I just need to get some water.
I got water right here.
And then they've taken their, we'll just say, not quite up to the same standard work. And when I say that, that's what I mean is perhaps subpar. And when I say subpar, I mean
they could have done better.
It's really terrible. And they put really high price tags on that work, like, you know, $50,000 for this, you know, painting of whatever. And that's the idea. Like, hey, it must be good if it's expensive. And the idea is, if you cast your net wide enough, you can hook somebody. But I would tell you, unless the consistency is there, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to get some crazy critic who just thinks that you're the best thing since sliced cheese, then you're going to be stuck doing that work.
Yeah.
If you want to make a lot of money, that's kind of like that's a really low percentage of getting, air quotes, discovered, you know. But, you know, if you make crappy work on a lark for the money. What?
Can you? I didn't want to interrupt you, but I need a different reference because
that's what you need.
Yes.
Okay. Then
thank you.
if the critics were to latch onto that for some reason, you'd be stuck making crappy work. So
I was just grabbing another reference so that I could be in the right size.
Ted says, "Shh, Jason, that's how I passed my high school art classes."
Let's see here. I'm trying to shape the ear and the leg. But my photo that I was using doesn't have it in the photo.
So Harley Girl says, I think you also have to charge for the economic environment that's around you too. She lives around small towns, so putting a big price on a piece isn't going to sell the same if it was in a big city. That's true.
And it's hard to maneuver that.
But I think that's one of the reasons why we do prints. Because, and we're still getting our print business is up and running, but we don't have a lot of work on there right now. Because our work is on Fine Art America. Do you have work on there? Or is it just me?
It's just you.
Okay, well, we need to get work on getting more.
Well, I know.
But, and
I've got so much to get done.
You know, it's hard. Art life is hard. Believe it or not.
It's very busy.
But I think that for that reason, like around the turn of the century, not this century, last century, and there was an art movement, the Art Nouveau movement, in Paris. And basically, the idea it was a group of artists that they were sick of the affluent having the only access to art, and they thought it's not fair for people to not have access to beautiful things. And so their idea was to beautify everything, you know, everyday items, and also make art accessible to, you know, normal people. And that's the Art Nouveau movement. So like, one of the ones that I followed was Mucha. He was a Czechoslovakian artist. Czechoslovakia?
Can't remember. His art is still actually under copyright.
Yeah.
The family has continued the copyright.
Yeah, his family. I mean, and it is still wildly popular as well.
Mm-hmm.
But he and artists like him were intent on making that art accessible to normal people, and to that end, for that reason, like items around that time frame, like if you look at like cigar boxes and, you know, candy boxes and everything, it was ornate, it was decorated, and that was the idea, that people could have nice things, that they wouldn't have to pay a lot of money for it. And it really kind of upset the aristocracy at the time, because they felt that art was the purview of the affluent and the aristocracy, the royals, and that kind of took away from their exclusivity. So.
Right now, I am negative burning around so that I can get my shapes right. They feel off.
Troy wants to know, he's noticed that you're picking up some of the wood grain in the burning. How are you going to get rid of that? Newbie question, he says.
Oh. Well, it depends on if I want to get rid of it. Some of it can work in your favor. When I go... let's see here, let me find a place. Well, right here I'm using the grain because it's rough. It helps with the texture. I'm trying to find a smooth place. Trying to see. This may not be. I know that some wood shows more grain than others. But, let me see here. I'll just do this. Like right here is supposed to be a little smoother. A lot of times what you'll see is me going in circles to smooth out, versus this right here has more texture because I was using the grain to get the fur. So just drawing down does that, but if I kind of go in circles, I can blend, and I'm using more the tip of the pen instead of flat, which this pen already works better on the side, but let's do this. So if I want to smooth something out, I tend to go in circles, maybe slow down. You're working with wood. And I know some people try to get it completely out, and each piece of wood is different. But there is some expectation that it's not going to be perfectly smooth. And also how the lighting hits it changes. Let's see here. This is a blanket underneath, so this wouldn't be smooth. We have fur texture, that wouldn't be smooth. So I guess the one spot that I would like smooth would be the background. This one I was using the 18L and drawing down, but if I wanted to smooth out, which I will do it later, it would be slowing down and letting the pen sit with a little bit of pressure. Like right now I'm not hot enough.
Oh, I think you're plenty hot enough.
My pen is not hot enough.
See, let me touch you.
Let's see here, about up to 5. So I just use...
No, you're a 10.
For this, I would slow down. Let the heat sink in. Just take my time.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing. See, with burning, going fast isn't going to get you what you want.
No Ricky Bobby there.
No, this is the one place I'm not Ricky Bobby.
I think too that's like I can do a larger canvas, but I just can't deal with what you do. It's so slow.
Well, see, now
I
you can
do
see
layers.
the difference where I've slowed down right there.
Yeah.
And I got the grain. And that was just based on going slow. I put a little bit of pressure. Like I said, the heat is, this one's on 5, and this is the 18M. So it burns a little different.
Ted, that time frame for Art Nouveau was post-guillotine time. So they had already dealt with Marie Antoinette.
Yep. So that's how, depending on where I want it. See, now that I did that, I'm going to have to do the whole thing because it won't be even otherwise. Which is fine. I planned on doing it anyway. Yeah. So not a big deal. So I'll just go back down to 3. And like I said, right here, I'm just blocking in. So I'm not stressing about any of that stuff. I'm just trying to get to a point where I can take off the graphite.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that I want to do. Is get the graphite off. And with this, some of the chalk's been coming off, but not always. Depends on how much I scrub on the...
When you wipe it down,
it'll come off.
It'll all come off, yeah.
Yeah. And then I can decide how... So right there, I caught the wood. Sanding your wood really good makes a difference. This board, I'm not sure why it's been burning the way it is.
I have a theory about that. I don't really want to talk about it.
Well, yeah.
For as far as like why this board was used for the purpose that it is being presented to be used for. So that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Ted was wondering, I wonder if the art might have been a contributing factor to the revolution or vice versa. No, as opposed to revolution, the revolution...
Actually, by that time, the Louvre was already open to artists and to the public. Yeah. As an art museum. It was still partially a palace during Marie Antoinette's time. But the other part of the Louvre was actually meant for artists and was opened up for the public to come see.
Yeah. And, yeah.
I watch a lot of art history now.
And there still
I don't know it.
There was still, the aristocracy at that point was more or less afraid of the people, which is a good thing.
Well, they've just taken her head.
Yeah, but there is still, art was still fighting that perception, because it had been the purview of the rich and the royals for so long. So the Art Nouveau movement kind of strove to turn that around.
Yeah, it was actually Napoleon who kicked them out.
Yeah.
Because he wanted it all to himself.
Yeah, because he was a douche.
Yeah, and then let's see.
He's like, artist, get out of my house,
Pretty much.
Mona Lisa's old man.
See, we miss Eve. She would love your accent.
I know, my perfect French accent.
I think sometimes she wanted to smack you.
I hope that's not why she stopped modding.
No, it's not.
She's like, I cannot stand him anymore.
No.
I have to go, okay?
Yeah, but he's Canadian French, so that's a bit different.
I know. That's the accent I was doing.
Canadian French?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's just like subtle.
Let's see, I'm trying to get my ear on.
Looks like it's on to me.
No.
Let's see. Yep.
Smarty pants.
It's on.
He's poking me in the head.
In the ear.
In the head.
Don't worry, folks. It is attached.
Well, I'm trying to separate the two.
Yeah, keep them separated.
Oh, because right here it does separate. It's darker there.
How long are we going today?
Oh, I don't know. I've just been burning.
Oh.
Because
Well,
I'm going to have to put this piece aside and bring back out my World Pyrography piece and work on that one. We've only got 4 more prompts left on that one. It's going really fast, and I'm going to have a done piece. I'm excited about that.
yeah.
It's actually going to be done.
So it's 12:08 now.
Okay. Well, I do want to quickly go back over white fur, just in general. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. I'm going to click off, because I really want to... When you see white fur, and don't mind the lines. In fact, I think I'm going to back out. Owie, owie. Click that off so I have room. Alrighty.
Oh, Melissa is French Canadian, so she knows my accent is perfect. What? It's not.
I'm so sorry, Melissa.
I don't know how to take that.
Alright, so when you're looking at your reference, and it's white, whether it's a white patch or it's a white animal, white hair of any kind. If you look, you're looking at it and you're like, huh, white, 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 white. But then switch it over to sepia, and what you see is it is not actually completely white. What you see is there's highlights in certain areas, but it's not white like you thought looking at this. There is a tonal value to it.
That's a midtone. It's a midtone. That white is more like the midtone of the piece.
It is. And then I've got my darks here in certain areas.
Air quotes white.
Yep, but this is a midtone, whereas that is the highlight. That is where we've got the white because the light's blowing out the color, which I wanted. I actually upped it. But looking at it, you don't see any straight white. There's all shadow. So if you've got an animal where you see is white, whether it's a black and white cat, a white cat, let's see here, I'm trying to look around. There's the card up there. I don't know if you want to grab that. I just wanted...
What card?
My llama card. Actually, that's an alpaca.
Huh?
Up there by you.
Why do you want the llama card?
Because it's white. It's a white... Are you okay?
I just kicked your chair.
Never mind.
Oh.
So I'm just trying to show that just because it looks white, when you really look at it and adjust it in the sepia, and I do the sepia because it's closer to what it's going to be on the wood versus a white piece of paper. So even here, this is white. Yes, this is a card. What did you get this one for? This one was Valentine's Day. Okay. So looking underneath, this is white fur, but because the light's not hitting it, we have shading all along, and that's what forms things. So, when looking at it, you can see a big difference between the two. So switching your photo, white is very rarely truly white. Like, very rarely. And again, the sepia is closer to, so you can see, so I know this area right here, which is this area right here, and actually it's this area right here. Up here at the top, we'll have no burning, and it'll actually have some added white to pop that out. But a lot of this is white fur, but it's in shadow. So it's burned. Other than to shape a few areas, there's a lot of burning to it. Even though it's like here, this will be lighter because the light's hitting her this way. And her paw was like her nose. These two areas are the closest to the camera, and then they want where the light was hitting her down this way from the window. So everything in between. This is all white fur, but it doesn't look like white fur. It doesn't translate or value as white fur because of the shadows. And that's the biggest thing to pay attention to when you're doing white fur. You need to have these darks in order to make these lights really stand out and give it balance. No, we haven't done the clue yet. Oh, I almost forgot.
So
That's on him.
Yeah, no,
he does the clue.
What do you think I was asking? Anyway, but we got distracted with my awesome accent. Let's see.
Well, you're gonna have
Melissa
to.
saght it's really bad for real. Oh, Melissa, I know she's just kidding. Right? I know my accent is that spot on though, right? Right?
No.
Well, agree to disagree.
No.
Anyway,
No.
So the clue. I'm assuming you wrote this.
Yes, I wrote it down. I've
Okay.
been wanting you to put check marks next to it when we use them. That way we know. That way if we have another thought and write it down,
Okay, so
we don't get
I'll
lost.
put a check mark on 7 then, and now. Okay, so I'm gonna run down the clues, all of the clues.
What is this for?
I'm getting there. Don't direct me. All right, so this is the clue for the celebrity piece that Valarie is working on. That is a secret, but we're giving out hints each week, and if chat gets it, whoever gets it live in chat will get a print.
Yes.
Is that right? And then whoever gets it, like if you watch it afterwards, and
On
you're not in
replay.
live chat, in your replay, and you guess it
In the comments.
then the first person who guesses it will also
Win
get
a print. Mm-hmm.
So the hints for this person are as follows. They are male. A dude, not a woman, a dude. The second hint was a hair is a iconic part of their style. The next hint was that they're not dead, because we were getting a lot of dead people. Right? We were seeing dead people in chat.
We are seeing dead people.
They're not a musician, but they are in entertainment. They're on American TV, but not network TV necessarily. That's not their main thing. So, like the big networks, that's not where you're
Regular TV.
You'll find this person.
Not a clown.
Free hint that week was no clowns. And then last week's hint was dark hair. They don't have gray in their hair, so that should give you the.
Oh, is that what you said last week?
Yes.
Okay.
That would give you a hint
I
about
guess-
their age, or that they're very vain and they color their hair.
You just gave another hint there.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I said that could be interpreted as such either
Okay.
way.
Okay.
So because
Okay.
it could be young world. If they're old and they have gray hair and they color it, then that means something else entirely. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so this week's hint. All right, they have facial hair as well, and that's a regular part of their look
For the most part.
for the most part. So, in fact, yep. So, so that should help rule out quite a few people, because there's quite a few people who don't wear facial hair
This is true.
as part of their look. Okay.
We got I like what I'm gonna give it a minute because I know I'm done burning for right now. But I want to give it a minute and see what some of the guesses are because some of them are really cool. Like we just got Henry Winkler.
The Fawns.
The Fawns. Let's see. Thank you so much, Melissa. I hope it was helpful. The biggest thing, just mark it off. And then you can focus easier. I was feeling overwhelmed, but I am starting to feel better about her. I am starting to feel better.
And I will thank her for that. It was my French-Canadian accent.
Okay.
This is a very nice comment, okay?
Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Ted. What did we say about the hair? The hair is iconic.
Yeah. I mean, that it could be.
So,
I mean,
I just wanted to see a couple more.
Who rules Mr. T out.
So remember, the purpose of this is to focus much easier in one area. Excuse me. So that is the area we worked on today. Definitely need to darken the ear, but that's okay. Getting somewhere. And these are made out of one piece of cardstock cut in half and tape. Very easy and free to do. What else we got? Captain America.
You know what'd be funny is if we group these people that they're coming up with as matches in mixed martial arts. So like Mr. T versus Captain America or
Yeah, we just got Mr. Rogers.
Versus Mr. Rogers.
Though he said he's kidding.
Did Mr. Rogers pass?
Yes, he passed. They've got a movie coming out about him.
With Tom Hanks.
Yeah. But yeah, he passed.
I
So
thought Fred Armisen would have made a good Mr. Rogers. He looks like him.
He does look like him a little bit. So I still need to fix this eye. I did work on this eye. This eye will be closer to this eye.
No Barrel, no Hulk Hogan. Ooh. Yep.
You're not supposed to say yes or
I'm sorry.
no.
I was a Hulkamaniac when I was 15. Tell your brother. It's all about it.
My brother was not all about it.
I was.
Oh.
I'm not talking about your brother. You don't know. You're not a Hulkamaniac, obviously.
Pete, you're never a good boy. You and Ted, I could see them causing a lot of problems together.
Who, me?
No, Pete and Ted.
Pete and Ted? Pete,
Yeah.
Ted, and Troy.
Pete, yep.
Yep.
Yep. That would be fun.
Danger, danger. It's okay. It's like, you know what, Melissa? It's because my accent was so effective it threw you off.
I'm so sorry.
I really believe you are sorry. I think she's really apologizing to you. Oh.
Because I know in your head it probably sounds better than what the rest of us are hearing.
Or maybe it's so perfect that it's throwing you off.
Alright, guys. Don't forget one thing.
What's that?
I'm waiting for it. You are awesome. You can do this. You're a pyro artist. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Happy burning, guys.
Bye.
Bye.